Hey, still, that's not a good start either. Still working on it. I'll try and do one every day, probably. We'll see how that goes. So today I'm having just one of those days where I just don't feel well. Like my stomach doesn't feel well. I'm like aching and my head feels really foggy. Like, those days when you just can't really think. And it's getting worse. Like I woke up not like I was kind of tired when I woke up this morning and I didn't feel great, but I've just been going downhill all day. I don't think I'm sick. I think I'm just like out of energy, if that makes sense. But today was one of those days that I had 5 meetings booked today and I can't move them because I have meetings booked tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So I had to do them today. And I was just like I'd do the meeting and then I'd have maybe 30 minutes to the next meeting. So then I go lay down for 30 minutes. So today was probably not the day to try and figure out this new wage subsidy and all the funny ins and outs of it, but I'm pretty proud of myself for doing it anyways and figuring it out. So I downloaded their new calculator. They just released it today, and I've linked to that in the description so that you can go and get one for yourself if you want it. And I think so. This is a complicated procedure, and I'm definitely not going through the details on this. I went through the details earlier so I could get it straight in my head, but I think for what you need to know about this is that, one, any revenue drop now makes you eligible for this subsidy. So it used to be that you had to have a 30% drop for periods 1 to 4, but from 5 to 9, you actually qualify if you have any sort of revenue drop whatsoever. And this revenue drop is not just within the current month anymore. It's now an average of the last 3 months. So it's a 3-month average that they're comparing to either the same 3 months in the prior year or January and February of 2020, whichever one works better for you. And they did that because some businesses weren't around last year, and so they wanted to be able to give them something to compare to as well. So you can choose last year or January, February. It was from period 1 to 4. If you started by saying, okay, I'm going to compare to January and February, then you had to keep using that comparison and over the following periods. But now between 5 and 9, you can make a choice. You're not locked into that same method anymore. You can make a choice. So there's 2 pieces now. This thing is now made up into 2 pieces, and it's the base revenue drop, which is that comparison, the average comparison of the last 3 months to either the average of January and February or the average of the same 3 months last year. And if you have a revenue drop of 50% or more, then you qualify for this top-up piece. But the base rate is the revenue drop, the percentage revenue drop, times the factor that they're giving. So I think it's 1.2 in the first 2 periods, and then it sort of tapers off from there. So even if you only had a very small revenue drop, you could qualify for a really small wage subsidy, which is really cool. I think that's really interesting. You still needed to have a payroll account set up as of March 15th. So if you're just setting up payroll now, unfortunately you don't qualify. But if you had payroll since March 15th, maybe you didn't qualify for periods 1 to 4 because your revenue had only dropped by 29% or something. I had a client who was 29%, and it was just heartbreaking because they really needed this subsidy, but it had to be the 30% drop. And so now they qualify because now it's any percentage at all. And the good news about this is that if you're the other way and your revenue has dropped substantially, then you get this top up. So you could qualify for up to an 85% subsidy, which is more than the 75% they were offering before. They've also created what's called their safe harbor rule. So if under these new rules you only qualify for, 60% or something, which is the maximum base rate, then you have a 30% drop in your revenue, so you would have qualified for 75% under the old rules. You still qualify for that 75%. So you can still get the 75%, even though under the new rules, you only qualify for 60. So that's really great that they're just keeping that consistent. So the wage subsidy is going to drop off over the next few months. The 60% rate is going to go down by December. It's going to be very little. The top-up rate's going down as well, and the factors are coming down. So it's supposed to be like a wedge, right? Like as companies make more money and we kind of come out of this crisis, make more money, come out of this crisis, then the wage subsidy comes down, right? And so it's supposed to be to support small business owners, but then also not provide a cliff like the curb did and like the old wage subsidy did, where, you know, if you had 29% in a wage or a revenue drop, then you just didn't qualify for the wage subsidy. And the same with the curb. If you made more than $1,000, then you just didn't qualify anymore. So that forced a lot of people to purposefully make less, like have a lower revenue, which is really not helpful when they're trying to open the economy. So they are now allowing you for an increase in revenue, which just decreases the wage subsidy for you. There's no sort of cliff that you just sort of fall off and then you've got no wage subsidy at all. And that's, to me, those are the basic pieces of this that you need to know as a small business owner. The calculator that I linked to will do all of the complex pieces, like the calculations and that kind of thing for you. So all you have to do is put in your revenue numbers and it will give you the rate that you get so that you know what your subsidy rate is. It's also got a couple of tabs, so it actually calculates the subsidy for you. But I think that calculating the rate is really the complicated piece. The other pieces are pretty much the same as before. If you have any questions about that, definitely let me know in the comments. I'm happy to discuss this as much as I can. Like I said, it's pretty complex, and they just released all these details today, so still working through it. But I got myself some notes that I typed out. You can't see my screen. I don't know why I'm pointing to it, but I got myself some notes that I typed out. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to chat about it. And if you want to sign up for tips and tricks and that kind of thing, accounting and tax related, then sign up for my newsletter. I put that in the description as well. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing better than I was today, and I'll see you tomorrow.